How you doing, everybody? Switching it up a little bit today, going from sharks last week to helpful people in your life who aren't going to be sharking you and who are more like your protective dolphins or whatever analogy you might want to run on that. Sharks in their own right. Okay, coming to you today, we have two alum. How many, show of hands out there, how many aerospace students? Shy hands, that's okay. There's a couple of you. How many IOE students? Okay, a little bit more. Okay, well, in addition to those of you who are from those programs, how many of you are from MIT? Oh, probably a whole lot of nobody. Oh, hey, two. Guy in the middle? What do you do? How'd you get here? Oh, he doesn't want to answer. That's cool. No problem. We'll come back to that. Okay. Two alumni who are here today to otherwise talk to us and unpack a whole lot about mentorship. I could run through their introductions, but I'm not going to do nearly the justice that they can. If you would not mind kicking it off, Kristin, that would be great.
Hey, everybody. I'm Kristin Toth. I did the Tauber program here at Michigan from Troy originally, and fell into Tauber as it was sort of being formed, and I really liked that it was, at the time, IOE only and business, and I had to take foreign language and culture, so it was a really good way of not picking one major. And I didn't think I wanted to do anything with operations. I just thought it was a good education, but as I got into it and I learned more and more, especially about lean manufacturing and the ways of using data to improve processes, I really kind of got into it. I left Ann Arbor and moved down to Austin, and I worked at Dell back in the day when it was really like the heyday. It was about 40,000 people when I joined, and we were just doing everything to try to figure out how to use technology to get closer to our customers and really re-engineer the supply chain so we could meet customers without a lot of waste, and it was a whole lot of fun. I then did go back to MIT, which is why Eric was asking, and I did 2 master's degrees there before moving out to Seattle in 2003 when Amazon was 8,000 people. I spent 8 years there. I built same-day delivery in 2005. I launched digital music as we know it in 2011. And then I realized what I really liked doing was building things. And even while I was here, I took the one entrepreneurship course that they had in the COE. And I didn't really know why, but there was something that was calling to me. And later on, I was reflecting about that. And so I figured, Amazon's great, but what if I took off the training wheels? And I actually went to a startup where you have to build everything. You don't have any technology, any data, anything that is sort of sitting there waiting for you. And so I went to this little company that was about 22 people when I joined, called Zulily. 3.5 years later, we IPO'd. It was the most incredible, amazing, intense, stressful, tiring thing I've ever done in my life. But it was also amazing and really told me that I was on the right track. So I ran all of the back end, all of the operations for that through our IPO. Left, got really excited about software development and what a big enabler that was to building things, obviously, and the fact that at the time we had over 100,000 open software development roles in the country, and we were still graduating more lawyers than CS students, which, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it seemed a little upside down. So I ended up CEO of a coding school that had done a proof of concept and really needed to figure out how to become a company. And did that for a little while, and then started at a company called Dolly, and then I went from there to founding a company called Furnish, which does furniture rental. I'm just not there anymore. We sold that 2 summers ago, and I did a lot of reflection on what was really giving me energy, and that was really about helping build builders and helping other entrepreneurs and leaders who are going through tough things be more successful through looking at their culture, their people leadership, and their business systems and processes, which are really the company building things behind the business. And I think really fit a whole lot with why I love mentoring so much, which is what we're gonna talk about today. I met Anna 3 years ago? 2, 3 years ago, and I'm gonna pass it off to her for a quick introduction.
Thank you. You're so cool. I'm so lucky to have you as my mentor. So hi, everybody. My name is Ana Timoficiuc. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Detroit, actual Detroit. I'm the oldest of 13 kids. My parents are Romanian immigrants. And I started college in 2017, and my whole goal in high school was I wanted to be the first woman on Mars. That was my whole dream, was to go to SpaceX. I would stay up with my little sisters at 2 a.m. and watch like the one of 7 launches that SpaceX had back in the day. And I think it was like 2014. And then I got to college. I studied aerospace engineering. It took me 7 years to graduate, and I'll kind of walk through a little bit of that background. But I started at the Michigan Aeronautical Science Association, which is MASA, the rocket club on campus. And it's like a secret portal into SpaceX. So by my sophomore year, I did an internship in DC. My junior year, I left in the middle of it to go do a co-op at SpaceX. So this was the beginning, January 2020, when I moved to LA to do my co-op. I was an avionics harnessing and integration intern. And it was really crazy because at that point I really loved avionics. Like that was my whole thing. Harnessing, it's like all the wires. It's like the veins of a rocket. It connects everything from the computers to the sensors to the propulsion. It goes everywhere, and you get to see the entire rocket when you work on that. And so I worked there for 9 months through the co-op. It got extended, and COVID happened that year. And SpaceX still had people stay and go in person, which was a very interesting time. I couldn't see my family the whole time. But I learned so much. SpaceX is a lot of things, and I have to say that I'm very, very grateful for that experience because it made me the engineer that I am today. So I came back to school, really struggled it was everyone's second COVID semester at this point, but it was my first COVID semester. I really struggled, so I took off that next semester to stay home and help my family and kind of reorient myself. And then I went back to SpaceX in 2021. And at that point, that's when things kind of started changing for me because I was starting to realize that, I really wanted more than just being an engineer. Like every time I was at SpaceX, I would go to my manager, I'd be like, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing that? And my manager, he's Scottish, and he'd be like, Elon doesn't care about innovation. He just wants to be the first one to get to Mars. And I'd be like, I know, but there's like some really cool things we could be doing. And at that point, I started having some problems, and there were some solutions. I experimented on myself. We'll get into the story later. But someone was like, why don't you just start your own company? And I never, ever thought about that being a thing. I just never crossed my mind. And so that when I came back to school in the fall of 2021, I was like, I think I want to explore this and see what this actually means.
Let me pause you there, and let's just say damn for both of their stories. Like, if you didn't establish credibility walking in the door, for sure you have it now. My God.
And a Scottish accent.
I mean, right? Okay, so you come back to school, you say, hey, entrepreneurship, maybe this, what's this? Okay. And then you decide to go into a CFE program. It's not a shameless plug. There's a point to the story. What was that program, and kind of what made you go into that, and where did that put you?
Yes, so it's called the Entrepreneurship Leadership Program, ELP. I'm actually sporting the t-shirt right now, or the sweater. And that program, the way I understood it is that it was a really valuable program, 2 semesters. That was something that really appealed to me. I didn't want to just take one single class. I wanted to be a part of something that would immerse me in what entrepreneurship is. Because the way that I see the world is I like to learn things before I make decisions. I like to get as much knowledge as possible. And I figured taking one entrepreneurship class, at least for me, I really wanted to have something that was detailed. And the ELP program was touted as like being supported by mentors, by resources. You not only learn the first semester what entrepreneurship is, and you get into a lot of details, but the second semester is a capstone project. And so you get to work on something and actually pitch in front of real investors and see if your business idea is viable.
Okay, and at this point in time, you came into the program with an idea, right?
Yes.
Wasn't a company yet, wasn't a business, you didn't know you wanted it to be, you had an idea. Students, I would imagine a lot of you might be able to relate to that. She graduated in 2024. She was just in your seat a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, okay? You have a situation where you enter the program with an idea, you don't know what you want to do with it. One component of the program is that you were aligned with a mentor. Yeah. Hence the relationship of you and Kristin.
Yes, so at this point, that was something that really mattered to me because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know if I even wanted to do entrepreneurship. I had this idea, but at that time, and I know this is gonna sound really crazy, this is, hashtag imposter syndrome, but I was like, I'm an engineer. Like, I see these people at Ross wearing these suits. I remember telling you, I was like, I'm so intimidated when I walk into Ross because everyone's in business suits. I was like, can I be a business person? I was like, I didn't know if that was something I really wanted to do.
So you don't know if that's something you want to do. Through ELP, we match you up with Kristin. Kristin helps you understand, do I want to do entrepreneurship? Is entrepreneurship for me, yeah?
Yeah. So the really cool part about ELP, and there's like a picture of all of us down at the bottom. There's like me at SpaceX and light therapy, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the mentorship was really important to me. The thing is, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know if I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so one of the things is at the very beginning of the program, they have this mentor matching where you get to talk to 3 mentors. They have a list of like 20 or 30. You get to pick 3 people to talk to. And then the mentors rank students 1 to 3, and then the students rank mentors 1 to 3, and then they match you.
Okay, let's pause that there. Let's get the other perspective here from the mentor. So students, you can relate to where Anna's at. She's trying to just understand her way in the world. Am I an entrepreneurship person? Am I an entrepreneur? Am I just an engineer? Am I both? What am I? Enter Kristin. What is your experience of her?
Yeah, so as she was saying, it was her first semester of COVID, and we did this mentor mixer where we were like tiny little avatars walking around this virtual room. And I had all of the same like scaries of like walking into a room where you don't know in like real life, like, oh my gosh, who am I going to talk to and how do I approach someone? And Anna came right up to me in the room and we connected, and the first thing she said to me is, I don't even know if I am an entrepreneur. And it made such a huge impression because it was so real and so vulnerable, and just at that like first moment, all of a sudden I was like, this is great. And of course we talked for only a couple of minutes, but in that couple of minutes, it was so clear to me that while she might not choose to be an entrepreneur, she had that in her gut, in her soul. And I was just excited about being any kind of part of supporting her through the journey that she would go through for the first year, or for the next year. And I didn't really know that we would end up meeting every other week for most of the next couple years.
Okay, students, it's okay to not know what you don't know. It's okay to approach people who you think might be able to help you and not even know if they can, and not know if you're going to be what they are and all. It's totally okay. They expect that of you. Humility and authenticity are the key to getting those relationships and getting ahead in life because of that. Let's unpack.
Let me say one more thing. I think the other thing that was so striking was that the self-awareness of, because I've had other mentoring relationships where, the person that I'm working with isn't quite as self-aware. And so the questions are great questions, but they're kind of surface. And that, from the very get-go, the questions that she asked me during those couple of questions, or a couple of minutes we had, were deep and really meaningful, and that continued on, and it, I think, made all the difference in our relationship, and that'll come up again. But
okay, yeah. Okay, so students, I want this to be a workshop for you. I want you to walk out of here today having a sense of how you might approach a mentorship opportunity, how you might approach alumni and other folks who want to help you out. So that worksheet that you walked into class with, that first question is talking about mentorship goals. I'm going to ask Anna, what were your goals in having a mentor? What did that mean to you? As you're hearing this, think about what your goals for a mentor would be. You're not going to get a mentor just because someone tells you should. What are your goals of that relationship for yourself, for your company, etc.? Anna, what were yours?
So I didn't really know. It's like how I'll honestly answer that. The thing is, like I was saying, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't really know much about the mentors. So I kind of came back to myself. And I wasn't trying to be intentionally deep, but I wanted to ask questions that really mattered to me, because even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted, I knew that there was something I was trying to learn and trying to figure out. And there were questions that I had figured out that if I ask these questions, I can see what this mentor thinks and how they think. And then I can align on there, because ultimately all these people are here because they have experiences that they can help me with. And it doesn't really, in the end, in my opinion, it doesn't always matter what experience you have. Because like at that point I was interested in health tech, and Kristin had nothing to do with health tech, but it was more about what kind of person she was. So some of the questions I remember asking was, what philosophy drives you? What motivates you every day? How do people matter? Do people matter when you're building entrepreneurship? And what does it mean to be like, I was just trying to better understand her mindset, because I wanted somebody who could help me figure out what it meant to go through this journey, which is exactly what you did, without necessarily being very specific. Because I knew in the end, if this was successful, you'd probably help me find the right resources and people, but it really mattered if I could connect with you and like resonate with you.
So to a large degree, again, second part of that, students, when you're talking to potential mentors or you're in situations where you're in kind of a mixture of sort, understanding what you're really trying to get with that person who might be your potential mentor. Is it a really niche expertise that they have? Is it an industry experience that they have? Or is it a fundamental kind of level connection that you need that's just on an overarching professional kind of basis to guide you for the path that you don't really know what's ahead? And that's kind of a little bit of what you did. It looks like you built out a little worksheet you use.
Yes, yeah. So that was from our very first ELP. It was really great because they kind of help you a little bit, and they tell you to come up with some objectives you want to talk about with your mentor. And this was either before or during our first meeting. I didn't know if she could actually help me, but I had a couple of goals, and I was like, I just want to learn more about where she's coming from, because I didn't even know who she was, right? Like, I just we really vibed. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were both each other's first #1 pick on that mentorship matching thing. And so I had a bunch of stuff on there, and I was like, I had some of my startup stuff that I just wanted to ask her questions about who I was as a person, because again, I established from the very beginning she was a people person, and that's what really mattered to me, because I needed to figure out what I was doing. And I just wanted to know her story. I think one piece of advice I would really give is, they say this is a really good conversation tip in general, but asking the other person, being genuinely curious, like, don't just ask them, like, what do you do for work? I was talking to an ELP person yesterday about this, like, especially when you get into the real world post-college, they're like, oh, so tell me about yourself. They're like, oh, well, I work at this. It's like, no, tell me what you're passionate about. Why are you here? What is your story? Like, what made you get into this position? Like that's like a really amazing place to start. And so I had these questions are kind of generic. I was talking with you, Eric, I like to plan for things like as much as I can, but ultimately go with the flow and be genuinely curious about the things that come up.
And students, so that second question you have on your sheet there, when you're thinking about a mentor, what is it for you? Is it skills? Is it experiences? Is it industries? Is it otherwise a sense that they can help you with a certain soft skill? What is it that you would look for in a mentor or mentors that they might be able to help you with in those goals that you listed in the first section? Kristin, you had an experience, of course, that was starting to evolve with Anna as you met her. You initially had someone who came to you, kind of sought you out, came across the room, was intentional, but now you're seeing a deeper mind of the curiosity that she's kind of working from and kind of the depths of where she's operating, yeah?
Yeah. And one thing I would say about, as you look at the worksheet or you think about this in the future, this doesn't have to be the very big picture for all of time or the next year. It really works if it's where are you right now? And I think that's what was so striking about every time we talked. You did ask me a very kind of personal question that got me thinking. And I was like, wow, I came here to show up for Anna, but now all of a sudden I'm really thinking, I'm having to reflect. And it was so helpful to me, especially as I was on my own entrepreneurial journey and having, challenges every single day. And it was great. And she was always so good at kind of starting with a really thought-provoking question that got me reflecting and sort of helped me so that at the end of our time, I felt like I had made progress, but also really started our conversation. So I would just say that curiosity that she was talking about made all of the difference in not only how our conversations went, but I was like hungry for the next time we were going to talk.
Do you know, I just want to say, I remember being so nervous when we would have our meetings because, like, to me, like, you were a big deal. And I didn't, like, even though I was, like, not sure about entrepreneurship, I didn't want to waste your time. Like, I remember being so scared about that. And the thing that would really, like, ground me is, like, I know she's trying to help me, and I have to be honest for her to be able to help me. Like, I couldn't pretend to be like, oh, yeah, like, I know what I'm doing with this company. Like, you need to help me with this, this, and this. I was really scared. I was always nervous. I remember one of the first times, I think this was like a year maybe into us talking, you were saying because it was helping you, our mentorship meetings, and I was so surprised, and I was like, oh my God, like that's, I didn't know that I could do that. And it was really cool. I don't know, I thought that was amazing because I didn't anticipate doing that.
It's students, I think that you don't know the secret power that you kind of have. I'll speak on Kristin's behalf and welcome her to correct me on anything that I might be saying here. But ultimately, alum want to come back to help you. I've told you this before. While you're a student, you essentially are a charity. Everyone is invested in your success. Everyone wants to see you succeed. And you've got a stupidly rich alumni base out there who is always looking for opportunities to help you, be it with one small one-off question, an elongated mentorship relationship, an introduction to make. Take advantage of that while you can.
One of the things I say is that as a student, especially at the University of Michigan, you have this incredible, multifaceted golden ticket. You could reach out to literally anyone in the world, and there is a better than half chance that they will get back to you. And if they don't, it's most likely because they're just busy and they haven't been able to. Not only that, you have so many resources on campus and in Ann Arbor that, after you leave, you would you would all of a sudden realize, like, wow, I didn't take advantage of that. And I think that's why, as alums, like, we just want to reconnect with that experience, and you challenge us in how we're thinking, because when you get out sort of in the world, you start really getting focused, and you can create this tunnel vision that, loses some of the intellectual just exploration that you do while you're in school. And so that, I think, was part of the reason why our conversations were so great, because I was just exposed back to that way of thinking and the endless possibilities. And I would sort of get off of our Zoom calls and then have to go back to, like, all right, how am I going to problem solve this challenge that we're having with turnover in our warehouse, or this customer who let her cat get out while we were doing a delivery, or how we were going to get this next round of funding, or tricky question from an investor. And you just get so focused, and that hour was this way of reopening up all of the creativity and the different ways of thinking just in my own mind by the questions that she asked and the topics that we were talking about.
And if you're ever at a point where you're like, I don't know what I can offer, just ask them, hey, I really appreciate your time. This has been great. Is there anything I can do for you? Or is there anything in return that I otherwise can provide? That in itself, showing the appreciation for the time, is tremendous. The intentionality that she came to you with, and the desire to otherwise dig deeper and understand kind of on a nuanced level what you could bring, who you are, led to an aha moment where you started to appreciate and realize that you don't know what you didn't know, and that Kristin might be able to help you realize what you were in need of, yeah?
Yeah, I want to take one step back for a hot second too, though, because that was one of the things, is asking like how can I help you? Like what can I do? And you did bring up some things about talking through like some of the stuff that you were going through, and now it's with your most recent venture, Ulu Partners, is connecting with you, helping with testimonial, because she just helped me and my co-founder last night, and it was an absolutely magical session. Oh my Lord. And I wanted to bring up two stories about when you don't know what to talk about with a mentor and being afraid to. So I know somebody, she was looking up to the CEO, and like he's like a really strong person. She's like, I don't know if I should message him, whatever. And I was like, do it. You never know what might happen. Even they're a random CEO, you never know what might happen. They connected. They had a really great conversation. I was like, oh, you should do another meeting. And they were like worried, like, what if they didn't like me? What if they're busy? And that's something I want to also tell you all. Like, one, take the shot, because you never know what happens. Like, there's nothing you lose from just trying. Like Kristin said, sometimes they're just busy and they don't respond. But two, trust and honor that they will tell you if they can't do something or if they don't want to speak with you. Because usually, you can usually tell organically if there's chemistry in a conversation or if it works for you. And the other thing I want to say is, like, on the previous slide, I had one of my old longtime mentors from 2019. Her name is Sarah Foster. So when I was working in DC at Aurora Flight Sciences, and she was one of the head engineering directors. And every time she came into a room, oh my Lord, the way she commanded it and the stuff that she knew, I was like, this is like a real life, woman, female power, example. And she was also super kind, but very confident. And they started doing this informal meetup with a few of the women engineers and the women interns. And I waited an entire summer to ask to talk to her, to have a coffee with her, because she really scared me and I didn't know what I would talk to her about. It was 3 weeks before my internship ended and I finally did it. And she was like, oh yeah, of course. Let's go talk and hang out. And it was incredible, and we had so much in common. And over a period of 5 years, she went from being a mentor, professional mentor, friend, to a really close friend who changed my life in a lot of ways. So I just want to say, it's okay if you don't know. Sometimes it's just a one-off. Even at SpaceX, it's like what Kristin and Eric are saying, just approaching random people at U of M while you have that opportunity. You have world-class professors here and researchers. Me and my co-founder randomly emailed a bunch of microbiology labs. We got into this microbiology lab for free to work with the top researcher on UTIs in the country, and he let us use his lab for free because he just cared about education. And I would talk to the heads of people at SpaceX just for a 20-30 minute coffee and just ask them what they were doing. It's sometimes all it takes is a random question and you don't necessarily need to know what to ask them.
That's great. I mean, and to that point about kind of taking the chance and asking them, you're at this point having an evolving relationship with Kristin. We're going to her for more and more, understanding more and more. She's, of course, been down the startup path and worked with companies and co-founders and the like. And it sounds like you kind of came to a point where you realized a co-founder might be what you need, but you didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah, oh my goodness. This was a journey because I had this idea and I started working on it with some people, but I was really struggling and I didn't really know what it meant to work with people. And that was something from the beginning that was actually Kristin helped me with, because it was also a part of this whole not sure if I should be an entrepreneur, because I just didn't know what that looked like. And so then I ended up being on my own, and I had a lot to do and I was struggling, and I needed Kristin's help to find a co-founder. And so one of the cool stories is through ELP is how I found my co-founder, and she's the best working partner I've ever had. Before we started working together, we had this expectations document, and I was like, let's see how we work together this semester, and if it works, maybe we can keep working together, because that was something I didn't do before. And sometimes it's really easy to jump into a co-founding relationship before you even know the person or you've worked with them. I always highly recommend, in general, it took a few years to learn this, because I was here for 7 years. It took 3 or 4 years to learn this, but any group project, I start with an expectations document, because you just never know. And oh my Lord, she is so killer. She emailed I would say hundreds of people, so many different labs on campus. We worked together, and it turned out that we were really great partners. And I would always reflect back with Kristin, what does it mean to have a co-founder? What should I be looking for? What does this mean? And she really helped me figure that out. And now my co-founder, Lily, who's here somewhere, she's my co-founder today. So she's been with me for the last couple of years.
And I remember before that, you did have some other people you were working with. And we talked a lot about that team dynamic and how to lead teams and how to set expectations. And I think without that, I can't imagine that you would have been quite as prepared to that experience that was really tough. It really prepared you for when you found Lily and setting that up for success.
Yeah, I think this is just an entrepreneurship tip, but you may not find the right people in the beginning. It might take time, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. Everyone has their own experiences, their own goals in life. Things change all the time. And it was a really hard conversation because it got to a point where, I needed to stand up for myself and I didn't know what that meant. And that was something that really helped me.
Yeah. And so, it's such a great story. As you're hearing Anna continuously kind of talk about, I found my co-founder and kind of ELP facilitated this. Sub out ELP for EHour, for ZLI, for take your pick of student org, whatever. All around this campus, there are people who are potentially incredibly well suited to become a co-founder with you or an employee of your early stage startup or whatever it might be. And Anna's story is a great example of how somebody who doesn't really know if they want to be an entrepreneur, doesn't really know what that means fully, goes through the process of understanding that, kind of coming up with translating an idea into a business, using a mentor to kind of bounce back and forth off of to understand how that evolution can be tracked successfully and map and continue to kind of go in the right path and serve the right customers and go to a market. And as part of that, you got to a point where you started to realize the specific needs of launching a startup. And now it was time to look at a patent.
Yeah. So we started doing pitching, we started working on the device and stuff, patent work needed to come up. This was all new to me, and as much as ELP was super in-depth, you don't know anything until you actually start doing it. And I know people say that all the time, like, you just need to start, you need to start. And that's something that was also really scary and I think held me back. You really helped me work through that because I would just get really overwhelmed at what I needed to do. And I'm still working through this right now. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I don't want to do something unless I know it's going to come out great. But something that was we were talking a lot last night with my co-founder, is you only learn through the mistakes, and it's okay to make that's part of the journey. You don't know, so that's something that I would go to Kristin what does this mean? How do I navigate this IP situation? That kind of stuff.
Mentors providing feedback on the guidance and the progress and the evolution of your startup. Doesn't stop with patent work, though. Now you're at a point where it's okay, investors and investor relationships, and shit, I don't know what I don't know with investors, and what's a term sheet, and how do I interpret this? It sounds like you turned back to Kristin a little bit for some help on that.
Oh, yeah. So last year, there was a lot happening, and I was moving to LA to work at my friend's startup. He was also at SpaceX, and I slowed down a little bit with Kristin because I would just I had to move from Ann Arbor to LA, and I was starting this new job full time, and everything was just a lot. And then I left the startup in October, or the one that I was working at, and I started working on my own. Even at one point, my co-founder came and crashed on my couch for a little bit in LA. By the way, while she's doing her master's, I just need to side note, plug that in because she's really impressive. And that's when I started getting connected with Kristin again because I was restarting this, and this time it was full-time outside of school. That whole people question, we haven't spent a lot of time on it, but from the very beginning that was important, and that came in the beginning with my previous team, trying to figure out the co-founder, trying to run a startup, a company. And part of the reason I wasn't sure about being an entrepreneur because I thought that you had to be you had to kill yourself for the business. I didn't know what it meant to be a leader, and it's a really hard process, a really hard thing to do. And so I got back into contact with Kristin because all this stuff started happening. I'm about to throw a lot at you. And then now we were okay, I had several prototypes throughout the last couple of years, but I built the most recent fully functional one in October. So then we were starting to raise money, and we were talking to investors, and I had no idea, again, they tell you in entrepreneurship classes, and probably your MBA classes and whatever about, term sheets and what they mean. But then you're in the real world and you're what does a valuation cap actually mean? What does this negotiation mean? And I was really struggling because we had this investor who had been, by the way, an alum from Michigan who had heard about me the year before that we kept in contact with. And she was really excited about the startup, and we started doing negotiations, and oh my God, I was so confused. And I kept talking to Kristin. I was what does this mean? Is this a good thing? Do values matter when you're talking to investors? How do you navigate if you really need money versus you're not really sure about what it means for the startup, and what do you give up in actuality? These are all things that I had no idea. You can read as much as you want, but that's when I was relying really heavily on Kristin.
And I've been on the other side of it, right? I had been in Anna's shoes over and over again, and I think one thing in reflecting back on what I hadn't done as well was like advocating for myself in the company. So it was so great to be on the other side of the table in her corner saying, no, you absolutely should be getting this and you should push back. And it's absolutely not standard that that's going to be the way that you're going to go. Like, don't let them push you around. And I wish I would have had somebody who could have said, like, oh, yeah, that's normal or that's not normal. Because when you're in that situation, you just don't know how to interpret some of the things that an investor or some other customer might be throwing at you. And it's a really good touchstone back into, like, what's your experience been?
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, is this like and you're like really tunnel vision because so I guess now I'm a real entrepreneur, but like I was like we really need the money to get to the next phase and we really want the money. And it was like I didn't know, like, should we just go for it with the money? Like what does that mean? Like what do we give up? And it was so helpful because I would talk anytime I would like struggle with my co-founder, she would even tell me like, you should talk to Kristin about this. It just kept happening, especially the last couple of months. Oh my God, I'm so grateful that you're here because it got to a point where I was like, I don't know if this is gonna go anywhere. And then a couple of weeks ago, like we agreed on terms and we got to a point. And it's okay, negotiations are scary and that's okay, but the standing up for myself, I needed you to tell me that. Oh my goodness, I don't know where I would be without that. I'm so grateful that you told me that and walked me through all of that because that was scary. That was so scary.
It's a critical element of what mentors can really provide for you, is really demystifying and telling you what you're going through is real, is not real, is fair, isn't fair, is good, is bad. You should go to someone else. Demystifying experiences and situations that you otherwise haven't gone through yourself. You obviously see the third part of that worksheet. Make sure you look down and fill that out too. What can someone help you otherwise demystify for yourself, for a startup? Might be a type of dynamic that you anticipate coming into, might be something you're going through now, but thinking through what otherwise you might be looking for to get someone's help in doing that. In doing that, Kristin's been, of course, a critical asset. And what I hope that you're also hearing from Kristin is it's valuable for her continuously to go through this journey. It's giving back to her as much as it is Anna pulling information and getting value out of Kristin.
Yeah, especially because at the same time that Anna's going through some of these things, I'm starting my own company and I'm having these questions and concerns. And sometimes, they just say, like, if you get really sort of confused or you doubt yourself, like, go try to tell somebody else about what you're doing or teach them. And it really does sort of build your own confidence back. Like, yes, I really do know. And you get a little bit of feedback that, yes, that's valuable and you're on the right track. So I definitely felt that energy coming back to me as much or more than I think I was actually helping you at the time. So yes, absolutely. I think it has been so valuable to me. And I think I just randomly think of you at times when we're not regularly talking and I wonder how you are. And that's how we end up sort of connecting and checking in. And sometimes it leads to, let's get more calls on the calendar. And sometimes it's like, all right, you're in France. That's amazing.
And I really unpack for a second, because I think a lot of times students, you look at the idea of a mentor relationship, you're like, oh, well, if I don't keep up every week and if I don't reach out to her or him, I'm not going to be able to go back to them and they're going to think I failed and flopped or whatever. You talked about how last year there was a big gap and a pause and you didn't reach out. That's totally okay.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it can be scary, but the thing you have to realize is everybody is human. You're a whole person. And at least for me, that was something that really mattered. And I know it's a value of Kristin and I's too. And sometimes life gets in the way and it's okay. I think, like, especially if you're just genuine, like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Like, I know this fell off. Like, would you be willing to meet? Like, I'd love to talk to you. And like, that was like Kristin reaching out to me, thinking about me. Like, I'd been thinking about her too. I was just like really busy. And I was so grateful that you reached out to me. And it was like a little bit of back and forth, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think it does seem scary. And I think it's one thing if you have it planned and then you start skipping meetings. But sometimes you just like let it happen organically. And if you haven't done it for a while, just be honest. Like, hey, I miss talking to you, or I have something come up. Would you be willing to do a quick catch-up call? It always starts with a catch-up.
Yeah. I've had mentor relationships in the past where I was the one meeting with a mentor, and the worst thing about it was when you felt like you had to go. It wasn't necessarily that you wanted to go. What that meant was it wasn't the right time or the right match, or I wasn't doing the work as the person looking for advice. I didn't really know how to use certain people that I had been assigned mentorship relationships with at times. And in that case, it's much better to just let everybody have their time and their sanity back versus trying to force something. And I think whether it's the frequency or whether it's just not the right time in general, that makes a huge difference in the relationship with a mentor.
And the more authentic you are in engaging with that time, and the more you come and you show appreciation for the time they do have, the more you're empowered to have a gap and to not talk for a while, because it comes back to that same core feeling of how both sides experienced it. You've now seen Mina Rosa continue to go from an idea to a full-fledged company. Anna, if you could kind of unpack for them where it is today and what's next.
Yes, thank you. So, co-founder of Mina Rosa Technologies. So I kind of alluded to this throughout the presentation, but the story started because I've had UTIs since I was a kid. It's something that's always bothered me. The women in my family have really bad reproductive health issues. And when I was at SpaceX in 2021, I had a really bad UTI, but my doctor was in Michigan, and I was in a lot of pain. I was broke. And I'd heard about light therapy, and I read some research studies, and I was so desperate, I decided to try it on myself. So I got one. It wasn't this exact one, but I got a random light therapy device, and based on some of the research studies I read about like bladder pain and vaginal pain, I used it and experimented on myself just like this in my bathroom. And after a few days, my UTI pain went away. And at that point, that's when people were like, you should start your own company because you have all these ideas. And I started exploring this as a potential idea because I wanted to, it helped me. And to this day, I've never had a UTI as bad as how it used to be. And I wanted to help other people. And the biggest thing was, even though there are light therapy devices out there, they all really suck. And as an engineer, I was like, I can make something better. So I made a health tech wearable light therapy pad. This is the idealized version. The real prototype at home is really ugly, and it would scare you guys if I showed it to you, so I'm not going to bring it. But the way that it works is light therapy helps stimulate the cells inside your body, the cell processes, which helps them become stronger and it helps relieve the pain. It's not a cure-all, but it helps improve your quality of life.
And you've gotten some traction for this idea.
Yeah, oh my God. So I was saying earlier, reaching out to people at U of M, like Kristin was saying, reaching out to your resources. We started doing some microbiology testing last year. And this year, we started a pilot test with 5 women. And we gave them a device, and we were like, we'll give it to you for free. Use it for 30 days. We'll do a check-in form. We're working with a Harvard doctor who's been helping us, Dr. Brian, who's been helping us with all of the medical protocols. We have Dr. John Stoffel here at Michigan Medicine, another person we just reached out to because we randomly emailed people and we were like, we're UMich students, can you talk to us? And he's been a part of our journey for the last couple of years. And these women are starting to experience that this has been helping them. One woman, Lily and I, when she was reading it, she was starting to cry. We had our exit interview with her yesterday. We were getting really emotional. For the first time in 5 years, she's able to sleep through the night and not have to get up because of urgency. Consistent, it's been consistent for the last couple of weeks. She can go to her daughter's soccer game and not have to leave because of her pain, which used to be her whole life was planning around bathrooms. Another woman, and these both decided they had the option to buy the device if it helped them. They both decided to buy it. Another woman, she was on long-term antibiotics for a long time. She finished a year ago. This is the first time she's felt improvement in her symptoms using it. So it's been amazing progress.
And some investments come down the road too?
Yeah, oh my God. We're in the middle of a $250K on price round that angel investor that Kristin's been helping me with. We finally finished negotiations, and we just sent her the contract this morning, so we're probably going to do a little bit more back and forth. We've been working with this manufacturer over the past year. That's something Kristin's also helping me with because she has experience with manufacturers and talking to people, and it comes back down to values. And I'm yesterday I was asking Kristin, how do I navigate this? What does this actually mean? And her giving me the tools from her experience about breaking it down, is this a one-way door, two-way door? We have a lot of things we've been working on, and it's just amazing to see what happens when you talk to people. And even the 2 doctors, a Harvard doctor and Dr. John Stoffel, they were just people that we met a few years ago. We started off with just asking them questions, and they were interested in what we've been doing. And believe in it now and are still just like here to help us along the journey.
Amazing. Growth along the way. And if they want to know more,
check out the Instagram and the website. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys being here.
thanks, students. Appreciate you. Have a good weekend.